Pope Francis has been mobbed by a frenzied crowd as he arrived in Rio de Janeiro on his first international trip as pontiff.
The Pope's visit to Brazil had started in a much more relaxed atmosphere. Too relaxed for some security officials. When the small family car in which he was travelling from the airport was surrounded by well-wishers and supporters, things got a bit too close for comfort. The car came to a halt several times in Rio's notorious traffic, but with his window wound down throughout, the pontiff seemed completely at ease. This, the first overseas trip by Pope Francis, is hugely important on several levels, and the Brazilian government will be anxious it isn't overshadowed by the trouble that has blighted Brazilian cities over the last month.
Brazil's president even made reference to social unrest in her welcoming speech.
We know that we can face new challenges and continue improving our reality. That was what made hundreds of thousands of young people take to the streets. Democracy, as Your Holiness knows, unchains the desire for more democracy.
For his part, Pope Francis praised the generosity of spirit of all Brazilians.
I've learnt that to gain access to Brazil's people, it is necessary to pass through its great heart. So let me knock gently at this door. I ask permission to come in and spend this week with you.
This 7-day visit is seen as an attempt to revitalize the Church's fading fortunes in one of its heartlands.
Thousands of young Catholics from all over the world have descended on Rio de Janeiro for World Youth Day. On Copacabana and Ipanema beaches, the usual bikini-clad sun worshippers are mixing with fervent Catholic youth among tributes to Pope Francis. The first Latin American Pope has chosen the occasion of World Youth Day to make his debut foreign visit as pontiff. The pilgrims hope he'll revitalise a church that's been shaken by scandal after scandal.
Yes, the church is in crisis, but as Francis says, they're going to change the things that are bad in order to keep the good of a pure and Catholic world.
In recent weeks, Brazil has been shaken too. Millions came onto the streets to protest corruption and the cost of living. Some World Youth Day attendees have faith that the Pope, who's known for his sense of social justice, will be a calming influence.
Less than an hour after the Pope's visit to Rio, a series of small scattered street protests erupted across the city. There's still widespread anger over the government's spending on the Olympics and football's World Cup, and for some, measures taken to host the Pope have made matters worse. The problem is the government's spending, this man says. They've spent more than 50 million euros on his visit, and that's way too much. It could have been invested in health or education. This isn't a religious protest, it's a political protest. It has nothing to do with the Pope. This shamelessness has to end urgently, this man shouted. Clashes broke out when around 300 demonstrators began to hurl firebombs at riot police. Authorities responded by firing rubber bullets. Dozens of people were hurt, and up to 14 arrests were made.
The first ever non-European pope is in the largest Catholic country in the world's largest Catholic region to attend a youth event that has brought nearly 2 million pilgrims and tourists to Rio de Janeiro. The forum is a staging ground to introduce the Pope's reformist vision for the Church, which has suffered mass defections in recent years.
When Pope Benedict came to Brazil, he spoke of the need to rein in what he called indiscipline amongst Roman Catholics, who were increasingly violating the Church's moral code. Pope Francis, by contrast, brings less ideology, less theology, and less prohibitions, so he can concentrate on his main concern, which he says is the need to attend to the needs of ordinary people, particularly the poor and the humble.